Turkish and Russian officials will meet in Ankara Tuesday for a new round of talks on the developments in Syria and Libya. Turkey's foreign ministry said consultations between Turkish and Russian inter-agency delegations on Libya and Syria will be held at a technical level and will continue on Wednesday. Ankara and Moscow are the main power brokers in Libya and Syria and have been holding talks on a lasting ceasefire and political settlement. An Israeli court handed a Jewish settler 3 life sentences Tuesday for murdering a Palestinian toddler and his parents in a hate crime arson attack on their West Bank home. Amiram bin Ulayl was sentenced by the court in the town of Lod following his conviction in May for the 2015 killings that stirred international disgust and charges of Israeli Nazism. He was also found guilty of 2 counts each of attempted murder and arson, along with conspiracy to commit a hate crime. Japanese ruling party head Yoshihide Suga, in line to become the next prime minister, appeared set on Tuesday to continue his predecessor's policies by keeping key cabinet ministers and party officials in their posts, as he had promised. Suga, long a loyal aide and chief cabinet secretary under outgoing Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, on Monday won a landslide victory to take over the Liberal Democratic Party. He pledged to carry on many of Abe's programs, including his signature Abenomics economic strategy. He faces a vast array of challenges, including tackling COVID-19 while reviving a battered economy and dealing with a rapidly aging society in which nearly a third of the population is older than 65. An official with the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention said COVID-19 vaccines being developed in China may be ready for use by the general public as early as November. China has 4 COVID-19 vaccines in the final stage of clinical trials. At least 3 of those have already been offered to essential workers under emergency use program launched in July. The center's chief biosafety expert Guo Zhenwu said phase 3 clinical trials were proceeding smoothly and the vaccines could be ready for the general public in November or December. Prime Minister Chang Si-kyang told a cabinet meeting on Tuesday South Korea will secure early supply of the novel coronavirus vaccines for 30 million people, or 60% of its population. The premier said while authorities would like to inoculate the country's entire population of 52 million, uncertainty around the vaccine safety, efficacy and development was limiting South Korea's investment. He said the government will negotiate with the relevant international organizations and vaccine makers to secure the early supply of COVID-19 vaccines and would buy more as the development proceeds. China has locked down a city on the border with Myanmar and will launch a mass coronavirus testing program, officials said Tuesday, after a handful of infections were detected there. The 3 cases were found in the city of Ruili in western Yunnan province, a major land border crossing point with neighboring Myanmar. City officials said in a statement Tuesday that residents were being told to stay home and people had been forbidden from entering or leaving the city from Monday evening. They said every resident would be tested for the virus in Ruili, which is home to more than 210,000 people. Australia on Tuesday recorded its first day without a COVID-19 death in 2 months as states began to lift restrictions amid growing confidence that a second wave of infections had been contained. While officials said there were 50 COVID-19 cases in the past 24 hours, a small increase from a day earlier, Australia reported no fresh fatalities for the first time since July 13th. Most of the new cases were in Victoria, Australia's second most populous state, which has accounted for about 75% of the country's COVID-19 infections. A U.S. Court of Appeals on Tuesday gave the green light for the Trump administration to expel hundreds of thousands of nationals from 4 countries who had been granted protected status for humanitarian reasons. In a 2-1 ruling, the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals said a federal court in San Francisco had erred when it issued an injunction protecting more than 300,000 immigrants from El Salvador, Haiti, Nicaragua and Sudan from being deported from the U.S. President Donald Trump's administration has sought to end the temporary protected status granted to these people who have several 100,000 American children on the ground that their countries, which were previously racked by unrest, were safe now. Around 2,500 people have been exonerated of serious crimes after being falsely convicted over the past 30 years in the United States. According to a new study on Tuesday, in around half their cases, police and prosecutors withheld evidence that would have exculpated them. The study by the National Registry of Exonerations found evidence that would have cleared the defendant was withheld in 61% of murder convictions. President Donald Trump on Tuesday suggested global warming will reverse itself and dismissed climate change as a cause of frictious fires engulfing sweep of the U.S. West during a briefing in California on the deadly blazes. The U.S. leader, who flew into Sacramento on the 3rd day of her election campaign swing, pushed back against state officials, arguing that a heating climate underlies the ever-stronger blazes, which have killed at least 35 people since the start of summer and forced hundreds of thousands of people out of their homes. President Trump, on his arrival, also repeated his argument that the wildfires are due to poor maintenance of forest areas, making them more combustible. Hurricane Sally drew closer to the U.S. Gulf Coast on Tuesday morning, bringing heavy rains and surging water ahead of its expected landfall as a Category 2 hurricane, with the chance of further strengthening possible. The National Hurricane Center said the second strong storm in less than a month to threaten the region. Sally's winds increased to 155 kilometers per hour, and late Monday was 145 kilometers east of the mouth of the Mississippi River. The Hurricane Center said it could wallet the Mississippi and Alabama coasts on Tuesday, with devastating winds on the cusp of becoming a Category 3 hurricane. Mississippi and Louisiana called for evacuations of low-lying areas, and President Trump issued an emergency disaster declaration for both states. An earthquake of magnitude 5.4 rocked Nagan Raya district in the westernmost Indonesian province of Aceh early on Tuesday. According to the Indonesia's Meteorology, Climatology and Geophysics Agency, the quake was centered 43 kilometers southeast of Nagan Raya at a depth of 125 kilometers. The tremor, a modified Mercalli Intensity Scale 2, was felt by people living as far away as the neighboring province of North Sumatra. No immediate reports were received of any material damage, injuries or fatalities.